Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be swept away on a journey into the extraordinary as we proudly introduce to our stage an unparalleled titan of the theatrical realm. With a career that spans over 4 magnificent decades, his trajectory through the hallowed halls of both stage and screen is nothing short of iconic. From the first moment he steps onto the stage, his presence commands your attention, and every movement imbued with the wisdom and grace that only comes with the years of decade practice. Whether he's gracing the boards and theatrical premieres like Beside Myself or Negrito Hotel, or waltzing effortlessly into Canadian premieres with the finesse of a true master in Dirty Dancing, his performances are nothing short of mesmerizing. Yet he effortlessly transcends the boundaries between stage and screen with a versatility that defies convention, from enthralling audiences in acclaimed series such as The Expanse and Murdoch Mysteries, to leaving an indelible mark in feature films alongside Hollywood's elite. With an impressive tally of 118 credit titles and counting, he embodies the epitome of a triple threat, with the industry seamlessly interweaving his mastery of dance, song, and performance to create an unforgettable tapestry of artistic brilliance. A distinguished graduate from Ryerson University's Fine Arts program, his illustrious career has been punctuated by an array of accolades and achievements. So please join me in welcoming, with a resounding ovation, Jonathan.
Chris, thank you. I'm not sure I could live up to the hype. It's haven't quite reflected on a 40-plus year career quite in that way. But however, that's thank you so much for that illustrious introduction, I would say.
Hey, you definitely live up to the hype, sir, I can assure you. And as you reflect back over 40 years, I'd love to ask, if we could step back in time, what initially sparked your passion for acting? How did you envision your career unfolding when you first embarked?
I, in all honesty, I don't think I can say that I had envisioned it. I started off as a musician and have been a guitar player, singer, songwriter since I was like 13. And in truth be told, that's kind of where I, kind of wanted to kind of get more into. I had a brief music career. I met a partner when I was at McMaster University for a couple of years, and it was kind of migrating into kind of like the Skyline Hotel three-piece suit sort of venues that kind of weren't really speaking to me, and so I was dating a young woman at the time who was actually going to Ryerson, and on a sort of a whim, I thought, well, I'll audition for the program just to see what that's about, and it was a process that was like 2.5, 3 days. The audition process to get into the school. Now it's called Metropolitan University, but and you had to do a variety of things, not only to present a couple of scenes and some music, and but you also had to do some improv and some movement and all that kind of stuff. And it was quite a stringent sort of process to kind of get into the program. I did, and I was there for 3 of the 4 years, and then got a gig in Toronto at what was once in 1981 at the Ports of Call, which was a very large sort of entertainment venue just south of Summerhill on Yonge Street. And there was a dinner theater program going on there called Getting My Act Together and Taking It on the Road. And it was kind of encapsulated all the stuff that I do. I get to play in a band, a really top-notch band with players that I still know today that, and act and move and do all that kind of stuff. And that gig kind of lasted for 17, 18 months. So I left the school kind of and took off from there. The result of that is that I kind of didn't look back from that element, or from that period. A lot of it is based in music theater. You mentioned Negredo. Negredo was a very different circumstance for me. I'm an actor who sings. I'm not an opera guy, in the sense that being able to do new music in that sense was a real stretch. My partner, Shelley Hansen, was also the associate conductor and on that gig, and helped me immeasurably in terms of like, these are the notes, sing these notes, or try to sing these notes. But it was one of those projects that was really out of left field for me, and very expansive. And a lot of the work I've done is earlier on anyway were all productions that were like premieres, people are authors that were investigating or doing work for the first time, and that was really great. So you really got an opportunity to kind of like lay your imprint, or bring yourself to these projects and create something that sort of. So that's the start of it, along with a lot of, I did some kids shows too. I did Polka Dot Door and Mr. Dress Up and Goosebumps and Animorphs, in addition to the more, the Expanse and the X-Files and the things that are more kind of more tuned now. But then I'm older now, so.
So your options in life were rock star or actor?
Oh, or truck driver.
Or truck driver.
That's right. I did. I had a. In my between years at Ryerson, I did, learn how to drive dump truck and do all those kind of things, because you kind of have. And nowadays, I do some coaching at Toronto Film School, and that situation is that every one of these individuals are having to not only spend their time kind of learning or investigating the craft of what we're doing, but they're all working like, full-time jobs almost to try to just make ends meet. It's a very different circumstance now than it was in my time, So
you've actually touched on a couple of different ranges of characters that you've got to play, from Polka Dot Door, Mr. Dress Up, and all these characters. When we look at your career, what was the most, I'll say, challenging role or particular role that you found rewarding for yourself?
I could say the easiest way to answer that is the next one, because generally, each one presents a different sensibility or a different challenge, and part of that is fitting into a particular niche that is being established by when you go into a series or that kind of circumstance, you're having to kind of, you're not fitting a mold, but you're trying to bring your best game to understanding and to the project as a whole. I would say in terms of highs and lows, like Negredo was a high only because it was so different than what I was used to. But then, that's on a theatrical front. But every time I walk into a theater circumstance, there is a challenge of which way to go. What are you bringing to the table? What's the, if it's music, as you mentioned, Beside Myself, again, a new musical. So you're learning you're also learning the integrity of the text along with the music, and also trying to stay within the music. So there's a lot of things that comprise to kind of like just staying in the moment. And I find that each new adventure presents its own sets of challenges. And I think probably, Chris, the biggest one is just staying, trying to stay positive. The industry is shifting, and the work is happening, but it's not happening as frequently as it used to. And so and it's not, and that goes not just for me, but it goes for everybody. And in finding that that ability to stay relatively positive in those lean times is can you question yourself about whether you're I don't know, am I ever going to work again, or did I do the right thing, or what maybe I don't have it anymore, or all those trappings kind of can wear you down. And I think those are the things that you have to steel yourself to say something, to audition to something, and then learn to let it go. And like anything, we tend to glom on to the I wish I could or I should have done, and those are challenging. So that's more of the philosophical end of things. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Wait, no, you did. I want to circle back to something that you had mentioned. You're at Toronto Film School and you're finding these kids coming in working jobs and trying to make it and cutting their teeth through the industry.
Yeah.
What do you believe has changed from your time when you were starting in the industry till now, where people are going through these harder times, if you will, and sharpening their teeth and claws with working multiple jobs while still trying to get into it? What do you believe that massive shift has been?
I think that it costs an inordinate amount of money to produce something nowadays, and I find the up and coming generation, they're not as avid readers. They're not as avid, knowledgeable in sort of world events and all that kind of stuff. I'm a firm believer in anything that you do, and I mean anything that you do, and it really doesn't matter whether you're hanging signs or selling coffee or parking cars or whatever, has a direct impact or has a direct relation to you as character building. And subsequent to that, the getting the youth today, or getting all of us in some ways, to disengage from the digital, and actively use imagination, which I think reading kind of creates that circumstance, something beyond the X or TikTok or whatever it is, but something where you are actively asked to imagine what someone looks like, or how they would sound, or how they would move, or how they would react to something and interact with some circumstance. And that's a challenge. And it's also, the industry has tightened up on just because there are 25,000 plus actors in Toronto alone, and I think that many of the youth nowadays, they all want to be film actors. They want to be, they look at themselves and they go, this is what I want. But that's just kind of the surface. And the challenge of being able to be available to almost anything, which is what I do. I don't do as many commercials anymore because, well, that industry's changing. It's gone pretty predominantly non-union, for one thing. The advent of AI kind of creeping into voice work is going to challenge anybody who wants to be a voice actor. So there are lots of challenges, but I keep kind of referring to going back to the theater or going back to the stage, because it's a place where you can really have an opportunity to tell story. You have a really opportunity to develop character, and you've got that extra component of an audience, that other side of the fifth character in the production, as it were, because that energy feeds you. And so I will say, on a positive side, is that the industry has changed where it's become more authentic. So in other words, they're not looking for someone like myself to kind of BS a British accent, for example, or that kind of situation. They're actually looking for the authenticity of voice. And at the school, it's a very international mosaic of students. I've got them from all over the world in the course. So now the reliance on the authenticity of the accent, the quality of their persona is actually more embraced than it was, say, even 5 years ago. So I think that's the positive, that they're in the right place at the right time. It's still hard to find an agent. It's still hard to find a place, but I encourage them to kind of like, a lot of them are, and we are still doing, as I kind of, we write every day, we still create every day, and it's a question of where do you put it or where do you present it in order for people to either acknowledge it or to have the courage to just express it. So, you know.
So you had mentioned something about, being in film, if you will, is just the surface. And sometimes that, we close ourselves off with, no, I got to be the movie star. So when we talk about opening ourselves up to all avenues, I mean, we're discussing theater, we're film, television, audiobooks, voiceover work, literally anything
Right.
that just kind of keeps you going.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I think the thing is, and more specifically in this country, and is that the idea that to be open to a variety of circumstances, because after 40 years, I'm still trying to figure it out. In terms of what works.
Right.
There are times where I just kind of go, happy to work, happy to have the job. I'm not sure how I got it. I'm not sure. But then again, I think that then you have to realize that there are times where I don't know what the impact is. And I think that goes for all of us. We don't know sometimes just what the impact is that we're having on things around us. Does that make sense? And so so it becomes, it becomes a surprise, a happy one when those things happen. But then you kind of reflect and go, so what did I do to get that? What did I say? And it could be, sometimes it's just a glint or a flint of something that they see and they go, that's what we want to see. That's that person. When I was surprised. I shot Orphan Black Echoes last year, and I had worked with the director probably 20 years earlier, and it was when I talked to him and to the creator, I was surprised. He said, when you did the audition, he said, we knew right then that you were the guy. We knew right then you were the guy. And I went, okay, well, and I've got in the back of my head, I'm very appreciative of, but I'm going, how did you know?
Yeah.
How did you know? And then I kind of, then I sense you go back to the initial audition, you go back to the kind of what you did, and you kind of go, okay, that's the fabric, or that's the quality that was appealing to them. That's the thing that becomes the template for them to work around, and then you work on exploring that template. And when you're doing series work, it becomes, you don't necessarily know what the trajectory is from week to week. So in as much as anything, it can too become just like a little bit like life.
Yeah.
You don't know what, not every episode is written, 6 weeks in advance, so you get an opportunity. You get it a week ahead of time, and then you kind of go, oh, that's where I'm going, or oh, I didn't make it this week, or whatever, it's one of those. So
Now, you had mentioned something earlier that I thought was pretty interesting, where you said we're all just trying to make it. We're all just still, some of us are still looking for agents or finding an agent, or is this the right agent for me? What advice would you give to an aspiring actor with agents? Like, you said there's a 25,000 plus actors in Toronto alone. Why is it so hard to get an agent, or what should you look for in an agent to make it the right agent for you?
I don't know that there is a quality of the right agent. I had an agent. I'm with characters and have been there for probably 40, 50, almost 50 years, um, in different circumstances. But in terms of landing an agent, I think nowadays it's almost like landing is just anybody will help. Anybody who can advocate for you, because we as artists aren't always the best salesmen, or salespeople. We're not because we'll kind of go, I really didn't do very well. We'll diminish what our capacities are, and a good agent will kind of go, but you understand, you've got this person that you need to see. Getting one has proven to be a challenge, because there's only a limited number of opportunities,
Hmm.
and then there's the if you are fortunate enough to get into the room, you become one of maybe 10 that get into the room. If they land it, great. If not, they just keep looking until they'll look for another 10 or whatever, that situation. But in terms of finding an audition, or pardon me, finding an agent, the advice that I would say is that you need to be able to present yourself in venues where you can at least invite somebody. So the idea for me would be, and as I recommend to some of the students I work with, is that Toronto Fringe is like one of the largest fringe shows in the world.
Hmm.
It has an international audience. It has, if you have an opportunity to do one, then you have a calling card. Then you have an opportunity to kind of go, hi, I am doing this gig for, the Fringe. Would you come and see it? Now, getting an agent to come out nowadays, outside, everything's on Zoom now, so we don't have to or everything's on, is self-tape, it's like walking into the office doesn't necessarily happen as much as it used to.
Hmm.
And if at all, because everything is done kind of remotely. But if you can encourage someone, you need to be able to provide something other than a cover letter and say, hi, I studied here and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You need to say, this is what I'm doing in this particular venue. I mean, and I think there is an inordinate amount of non-union work. There is that helps develop. You can develop a reel, which then you have to do the legwork, and that's the legwork is to send these packages out. Spell check, please. Spell check. And also, because I think that's those little red squiggly lines under the thing actually mean something to correct. And I think sometimes they just ignore the spelling, they ignore the syntax or the grammar, and I gotta go there. That piece of work kind of goes directly to the bin.
Yep.
And I think it takes tenacity. It takes a fierce belief to overcome the doubt, but it takes a fierce belief in yourself that you still have the capacity to do this, and that you have something to offer. And that's not something you can teach. That's something that you have to have for yourself. I mean, I can say it, but it's really just words.
Right.
You have to you have to believe within yourself that you have the capacity that you have something to offer. And you have to be resilient in the fact that no one's going to say, other than in an education situation, that this isn't, you could do better. Now, I would say the challenge with students is at times, they're in there to kind of get a good mark. I have told my classes several times, no one's asked me for my degree in the world. No one's asked me. They don't, I'm the only one who says that, but no one's asked me what I've done, in terms of, did I get an A?
Yeah.
No one's interested in that. Not in the world, not in the business world. What they're interested in is what you bring to the table. What they're interested in is what voice you can, develop for this character. That's what they're interested in. That persona. And so all the mark, unless you want to use it to go somewhere else, unless you want to use it to improve your education thing and become somebody who teaches for a living, or pedagogy or something, that becomes different than the actual working actor, of which I am, which I'm happy to say I am. I'm happy to say that I'm still a working actor at, 4 decades later, and hope to be till I'm dust,
Hey, 4 more decades to come for sure.
Sure, absolutely. That's right. It's a longevity, sure.
So with your experience on the stage and in front of the camera and everything that you've done, if you had to say, looking back on it all, I would focus just on the theater or just on the film. Is there one of those that you prefer more than the other? Not to hold you to anything, but do you love
No,
theater more than film?
no, no. I like the next gig.
Perfect.
No, honestly, I've had that question asked before. Like, do you like theater more than you like film? I love and hate them both the same. And the next gig that occurs presents itself with the same, whether it's film or whether it's theater, presents itself with the same joys and anxieties and desires and that kind of stuff. I will say that to do a piece of theater, you are given an opportunity over the course of 2-3 weeks, or pardon me, 2-3 weeks to kind of expand on the character. You can really delve into a script much more succinctly than you can necessarily in film. You're given a script a week ahead of time, or 4 days ahead of time, or pages. I've had pages delivered to me, I'm walking to set, and hey, start saying this, and I'm going, oh, sure, I'll try and see what I can. But it's like, so you are sometimes flying by the seat of your pants in film, and you're working very hard not to show it. Right. So that's so there is, in terms of a distinction between one and t'other, theater gives you the opportunity to take time to make mistakes, to be able to develop character, to be able to really flesh something out. Your mistakes in film are we balled it up, so we get to do a retake. That's basically your rehearsal, and everything. It's all compacted into 2 hours for the scene, if you're lucky to have that length of time. So both present different challenges. But like I said, it's like I appreciate every opportunity that comes, and always have. I haven't necessarily made the plan that's over my time working to say I'm going to focus on this. Some people say I just want to do film. I just want to be a film actor, and yet I go, okay, that's not me. I like to play music. I like to do theater work. I like to do film work. I like to do commercial work. I like to do, all sorts of things, because I think that variety, that spice, also all intertwines with one another. And like I said, in this country, being able to do a variety of things, just, I think, keeps your longevity, keeps your ability to kind of like stay in the game. It's some of it's just journeyman work.
Right.
Some of it's a day. Some of it's a couple of years. Some of it's, so it's all different. But it, that becomes my norm,
Right.
if that makes sense.
And Jonathan, if someone said to you, "What's something that scares you?" what would you say?
I think the things that scare me is not being in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when I auditioned last week for the first time in 3 years in person, and I'm telling Shelley as I'm leaving here, it's like I'm on edge. I haven't been in the room in 3 years, and you don't want to mess it up. Except if that's all you're thinking about, and if you're thinking about, I don't want to mess it up, then you're not actually in the room. You're thinking about, I don't want to make a mistake.
Right.
And the world is full of mistakes, and our work is actually, sometimes all the good stuff comes from a mistake. It's like a divine error kind of leads to something else, So I would say that my concern that I'm trying to be perfect at something is what I'm afraid of, and realizing that there is no perfection. I'm not sure that makes sense, but it having done enough theater work where things like, it's one thing when you're doing a straight piece of theater or a straight film and stuff. It's another thing to do when you do music theater. Like, the music tends to go on whether you have the words or not. And that could be a little daunting to kind of like to create, is to still stay in that moment and not lose yourself, and still be able to translate, the intention of the lyric, and also stay within the confine of the music. And there have been a few times where I've had to be bailed out by my better half on occasion. They go around they circle the wagons musically and come back and try to pick me up. But it's, so I think, and I think, also about not being, what scares me is I think as we get older, memory becomes a bit of an issue. Can be a bit of a challenge, and it's not just about old. I've had countless students at 20 something or other that go, I have difficulty memorizing, and I go, okay, that's what this is about, right? This is the game that we have to do. And I would attribute that partly to the media, that they're, or the lack of focus, or the lack of ability to kind of just hone in without having to go, oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
I need to get to this. This becomes the ability to focus for like hours. And that's the beauty that I like, which is why I love plays. But I also do it in film work as well. I'm a wonderful eavesdropper. I love, hearing, partly because you never know when they're going to say, Whittaker, hey, come on, we need you here. And you're going, I'm right here.
Yeah.
And at 4 a.m. in the morning, and everybody's been on set for 15 hours, if they're going to love you for not having to hunt you down and to find you at the craft table or sleeping under a chair or whatever it is, so I think it's maybe the biggest fear would be to, losing one's zeal for doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jonathan, I have time for one last question for you here with Coffee with Chris. I certainly appreciate your time, sir. It's what makes Jonathan smile?
Work and my youngster's 34th birthday, and my lovely partner of 35 years, Shelley Hansen. So we have. It's not all just about the work. I mean, but there have been opportunities where we've been graciously offered opportunities that all of us in the family get an opportunity to kind of like participate in it, or even if the youngster gets to kind of be backstage or to sit in a pit or those kind of things. That's mostly about what makes me smile. That and the dog.
And Jonathan, where can people learn more about you?
JonathanWhittaker.com has a little bit of blurb in it, although I have to kind of probably update the page from last year. There's a few more things that have been added. IMDb, people tend to scope that and go, wow, he's done a whole lot. That I go, oh, that's the thing about, they go, hey, do you want to tell me about what scares me? Is that somebody say, hey, what have you done? And the minute I start saying that, they go, I've never seen that. And I go, and I've never seen that either. And I go, look at, if I start telling you what I've done, and then you kind of go, I don't know that, I don't know that, then I gotta go, well, that's because some of it's under the radar, or some of it's you'll recognize it, but maybe it's unrecognizable. I don't know. It's like so there, and oh boy, everything virtually that we do now is kind of YouTubed. Yeah. It becomes that's the challenge. I mean, I go all the way back to 3 Men and a Baby, like the original one. Like
what's that?
19. Yeah, what is that? The Tom Selleck and Ted Danson and Steve Guttenberg, and then there's me somewhere deep in the party somewhere, but it's like, it goes, and I, sometimes it's surprising, how resilient some of this work is. So, surprised.
Well, Jonathan, as I said, that was the last question I had for you on Coffee with Chris. I really appreciate your time, sir.
Mine too.
Everyone out there, Jonathan, to the next gig for you, sir. And remember to smile to inspire everybody, and have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.